Palantir, according to Burry. The three cracks that could sink the stock, and a fourth structural flaw. Before truly grasping the cracks, one must understand exactly who is issuing the warning. Michael Burry is certainly no ordinary financial analyst. He is the legendary fund manager who rose to global fame for being the very first to diagnose the 2008 housing bubble, a feat forever immortalized in the book and the film The Big Short. Now, Burry isn't simply stating that Palantir is overvalued. He isn't just suggesting that the stock rose too much too fast. What he is proposing is something far more uncomfortable, that the broader market might be valuing as a scalable software enterprise, a company that, in reality, could have a structure much more fragile and dependent than it appears to be. In February 2026, Burry published a massive 10,000-word manifesto titled Palantir's New Clothes, Foundry, AIP, and the Failure of Reason, where he laid out his bearish thesis with surgical detail. He is not an opportunistic attacker. He has held bearish positions through put options since the fall of 2025. In the third quarter of 2025, his fund Scion Asset Management added 5 million put options on Palantir, with a total value of $9.121 billion, representing 66% of his entire portfolio. A company that perhaps is not exactly what the market believes it is. And if that were true, the drop would not be a normal correction. It would be a total structural revaluation of the business. First crack, the economic model, software or consulting. The first crack is the simplest to understand. Palantir looks like pure software, but it might be functioning at its core as a human-intensive consultancy service. Palantir presents itself as a scalable software company with elite margins. That is what the market buys. But Burry argues that beneath that surface, the business remains dependent on a massive amount of human intervention. The famous forward deployed engineers, or FDEs, whom Palantir physically sends to client offices. What does Burry say about this? If Palantir followed the accounting standards of Accenture or Deloitte, gross margins would collapse. The SaaS/software charade would be obvious. The stock would likely have a much lower price-to-sales multiple than what it currently enjoys. Burry specifically points out that costs associated with FDEs are atypically split between R&D and sales and marketing, which could make gross margins appear significantly higher than they actually are. The numbers supporting the caution Palantir defenders point to impressive figures. In the fourth quarter of 2025, revenue grew 70% year-over-year to $1.4 billion. Gross margin reached 82%. And the Rule of 40 hit 127%. The open question is whether those margins are structurally sustainable in the long run. Stock-based compensation is a red flag. Burry also critiques stock-based compensation. He notes that Palantir might have the highest ratio of billionaires per revenue in global market history, a metric he calls the B/S ratio, billionaires to sales. Direct quote from Burry: "Such a ratio speaks to outrageous stock-based compensation paired with remarkably few dollars of revenue. But it is really a ratio of expectations. And if it is the highest in history, then so too are the expectations for Palantir." Second crack, the technological one. Is AIP an advantage or a bottleneck? The fundamental distinction Burry introduces. This is probably the most dangerous and also the most structural crack. Because here we are no longer just discussing margins or accounting. Here we discuss what Palantir actually controls within the new artificial intelligence cycle. Burry's answer is this: Palantir does not control the intelligence. It controls a layer. AIP, artificial intelligence platform, is not a proprietary foundational model. It is not the underlying intelligence. It is an orchestration, governance, and ontology layer built on top of third-party models. OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, Google, xAI. The evidence supporting this concern. Palantir's proponents argue that AIP is transforming the business. The company now runs 5-day boot camps that allow customers to start using the platform almost immediately, drastically shortening sales cycles. U.S. commercial revenue grew 137% year-over-year in the fourth quarter of 2025. But Burry is not convinced. He has labeled the enthusiasm around AIP as pure hype, and has pointed out that the third-party AI models Palantir depends on are unreliable, meaning they cannot be fully trusted for mission-critical tasks. The market evolution threatening Palantir Anthropic is growing at an accelerated speed, capturing a massive portion of new enterprise AI spending. Claude enters directly, is bought directly, and is integrated directly into the workflow. The question Burry implicitly poses is, what happens if the client stops wanting middleware and starts wanting direct intelligence? If that happens, AIP loses centrality, pricing power, and inevitability. Growth can only be sustained if the market moves toward direct intelligence. So the second crack is this. If Palantir controls the ontology but does not control the cognition, its position may be much more fragile than the market believes today. Third crack, valuation and governance. The third crack is the most classic and, for many analysts, the easiest to defend. Palantir trades at a very demanding valuation level. At the time of Burry's analysis, the stock was trading at 219 times earnings, trailing PE, and 69 times sales, PS. The forward PE stood at 123 times. What Burry specifically points out, Burry doesn't just criticize the multiples, he points to several structural issues. 1. Brutal financial track record. Palantir was not profitable during its first 2 decades of existence and accumulated approximately $3.8 billion in losses before going public. 2. Aggressive spending. The company invested over $450 million in SPACs during the pandemic, many of which lost value. 3. High executive compensation. CEO Alex Karp received over $1 billion in stock options prior to the IPO. 4. Government contract dependency. In 2025, Palantir's federal contracts nearly doubled, reaching $970.5 million, including a $30 million contract with AIS. The optimist's counterpoint analysts from D.A. Davidson responded directly to Burry. We read all 10,000 words of Michael Burry's newsletter and found no new reason to worry about Palantir. They maintained their price target of $180. Fourth crack, social, legal, and ethical collapse. Burry's analysis stops at financial and technological fundamentals. But there is a fourth crack that could be the most destructive of all. One that does not come from margins or tech competition, but from the loss of social legitimacy, constitutional violations, and the closing of international markets due to digital sovereignty. This hypothesis is not in Burry's writings, but it emerges from documented facts surrounding Palantir. A. Violation of the U.S. Constitution and fundamental rights. The case MJMA versus Walmsley, March 2026. A federal lawsuit has exposed that ICE used Palantir's elite system to identify and locate immigrants for arrest, often without warrants and bypassing Fourth Amendment protections. Facts documented under oath, December 2025. ICE officers testified they used elite to identify neighborhoods with high concentrations of immigrant populations and generate individual files with photos, addresses, and personal data. Daily arrest quotas were assigned, typically 8 per team, and elite was used to meet those quotas. ICE accessed the private medical records of approximately 80 million Medicaid patients through a data-sharing agreement with CMS. The judicial ruling, March 2026. The federal judge presiding over the case ruled that ICE operations using elite violated the U.S. Constitution and described the tactics as violent and brutal. Legal experts warn the architecture of an AI system, how it integrates data, flags individuals, and triggers actions, is a form of policymaking. Designing a system like Immigration OS means deciding what data is included and what generates alerts. Stephen Hubbard. B. Social resistance in the U.S. The controversy is already sparking significant political reactions. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez warned of a national data dragnet for everyone under the guise of immigration. Senator Ron Wyden noted, "There are privacy issues with what they are doing. There is a lack of transparency. There are questions about the rule of law. A group of a dozen former Palantir employees published an open letter accusing executives of abandoning founding commitments to democracy and ethical data use in favor of dangerous expansions of executive power. See digital sovereignty. Countries are closing the market to Palantir, the Swiss case, January 2026. Switzerland has formally rejected the use of Palantir software for its military and federal agencies after years of lobbying, including multiple personal visits from CEO Alex Karp. A 20-page risk report concluded that deploying Palantir systems would pose unacceptable risks to data sovereignty, warning that sensitive information could fall under U.S. legal jurisdiction via the Cloud Act. Explicit conclusion from Swiss officials. Palantir is a U.S.-based company where the possibility exists that sensitive data could be accessed by the U.S. government and its intelligence agencies. The UK case, April 2026. A report by the Open Rights Group titled Tech Giants and Giant Slayers warns that the deep integration of U.S. tech giants like Microsoft and Palantir into the UK public sector has moved from a costly inefficiency to an urgent national security vulnerability. Jim Killick, executive director of ORG, argued that this excessive reliance now constitutes an urgent national security problem. D. The consequence: a closing global market? The hypothesis is this: no democratic state with serious data protection standards will hire a company that systematically violates privacy to facilitate mass deportation or police acts without judicial guarantees. If Switzerland, a country with a tradition of neutrality, has said no, and the UK is evaluating the risk as a security issue, which countries will follow? The EU already has GDPR as a restrictive framework. A ruling like Switzerland's could spread. Latin America has governments with growing distrust of US tech surveillance. China and Russia have their own systems and would not buy Western tech. The Global South could follow the European lead. So the fourth crack is this: Palantir's business model depends not just on government contracts, but on a specific type of government willing to use mass surveillance with few judicial guarantees. Democracy allows for government alternation. Reputation, once lost, is not recovered. And international markets, once closed, do not easily reopen. Without the far right in power, Palantir loses state markets that might require its services. Viktor Orban already lost in Hungary. Donald Trump and Javier Milei are next to leave power. The painful synthesis. Burry's bearish thesis doesn't just say, Palantir is expensive. It says something much more serious. It says the market might be valuing as scalable software and structural AI leadership a company that, in reality, won. Depends much more on humans than it appears. First crack, documented by Burry. 2. Does not control the core intelligence of the news cycle. Second crack, documented by Burry. 3. Is sustained by a narrative stronger than its real fundamentals. Third crack, documented by Burry. 4. Risks a reputation collapse and market closures due to constitutional violations. Fourth crack, hypothesis. This is no longer a light valuation discussion. This is a question about real corporate identity. What is Palantir truly? Because if the real answer does not match the answer the market has already priced in, then the fall can be very serious. What matters? What matters here is not falling in love with or hating the stock. What matters is seeing if the structure holds and if respect for fundamental rights and ethics are relevant to society. Who feels comfortable investing in a firm that boasts of violating privacy to threaten or deport? We are all potential targets. Will the market tolerate this ethical failure when financiers themselves could be victims? For that, only 4 questions are needed. 1. Are margins truly structural, or are they masking a much more human-intensive business? Burry, they are masked. 2. Is AIP a real and lasting advantage, or just a middle layer built on models others control? Burry, it is a layer. 3. Does the valuation reflect lasting fundamentals, or pure narrative fervor? 4. Will reputation and international market access survive documented constitutional violations? Hypothesis, maybe not. If 2 of those 4 answers turn out bad, the fall could be heavy. If 3 turn out bad, then it wouldn't be a normal correction. If all 4 turn out bad, then it wouldn't be noise. It would be the moment the market finally sees the crack it still prefers not to look at.